a sex scene as written by Morrissey.
I've got a sex scene written by Morrissey.
At this, Elisa and Ezra roll together into the one giggling snowball of full-figured copulation, screaming and shouting as they playfully bit and pulled at each other in a dangerous and clamorous roller coaster coil of sexually violent rotation, with Elisa's breasts barrel rolled across Ezra's howling mouth. Hold on, it gets better. Across Ezra's howling mouth, and the pained frenzy of his bulbous salutation extenuating his excitement as it whacked and smacked its way into every muscle of Eliza's body except for the otherwise central zone. Both fell awkwardly off the bed, each tending to their own anguish, yet still laughing an impaired discomfort of giggles while curving into a hunched disadvantage.
So the man who's famous for his asexuality,
has written a sex scene in a book, and it's just as awful as you'd imagine. So, at the weekend I bought and read Morrissey's book, List of the Lost. What do you know about List of the Lost? Anything? Nothing? What?
I know it's David Bowie. Morrissey's first fiction book.
That's correct, after the success of Autobiography.
I heard it on the grapevine that he was doing a fiction book, but I can't really say I've taken any interest because he's a joke.
I didn't know about it until
I didn't know the cover.
Yeah, the cover again. What don't you like about the cover?
Okay, alright, so first off, like, I had the whole controversy a few years back with Autobiography, where Penguin decided to publish it as a classic, even though the book had only just come out.
Yep.
The classic range, I don't know if you have it in mid-America, or anywhere else in the world, but the classics range over here is basically reserved for books like Wuthering Heights, War of the Worlds, you know, books like that, you know, real classics, like, deserve recognition because they are brilliant works and deserve to be recognised as essential reading that everyone should probably read because they're classics.
Yep.
Morrissey's Autobiography is not that, and the pretension and hubris of the man who wanted it published as a Penguin classic, I think, is just, well, stunning.
Yeah.
Now he's gone one step further. It is this one's a little bit more hipstery. This is appeal to his hipster crowd, but show the cover.
Yeah.
The cover has been intentionally designed to look like one of those old, like, 70s Penguin classic books.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like the battered ones you see, like in a second-hand bookstore, or even the kind of books that we read, like in a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
You know, like intentionally kitsch covers and
I
don't know how to describe it. It's just irritating to me. I like the classic 70s style font. We've even got one step further and we've actually used the classic Penguin logo. It's not the new one, it's the original one from like the 70s.
Yeah.
I know this because I've been around these books quite a lot.
Yeah.
My grandma has loads of these, you know, the classics that look just like that basically.
Yeah.
And with the
orange.
Yeah, the orange, like the
jacket.
The orange jacket cover.
Yeah.
It looks like a safety inspector or like a high visibility jacket, orange. So they intentionally made it look like a battered old 70s book.
Because he's an arsehole. What's
the story about? What's the
plot? This is a basic description of the plot. This book retails for £8 and is 118 pages long.
I feel ripped off already.
I felt ripped off buying it. Luckily I've already sold the book. It's a pile of trash. This description will involve spoilers, but I wouldn't recommend anyone reading it. Right, so basically there's these four. Oh, hold on, I need the cover because I can't remember the names of the three characters. Ezra, Nails, Harriet, and Justy are our four protagonists. Not that you would care about them; they're horribly badly characterised. They're four. The back cover doesn't involve a plot description. Why don't you read the back cover actually?
So this is a quote, not from a review, but from Morrissey.
This is Morrissey describing the events of the book.
Beware the novelist, intimate and indiscreet, pompous, prophetic airs. Here is a fact of fiction, an American tale where, naturally, evil conquers good, and none live happily ever after, with the complicated pangs of the empty experiences of flesh and blood human figures have a reason why nothing can ever be enough. To read a book is to let a root sink down. The list of the last is the reality of what is true, battling against what is permitted to be true.
Yes.
That doesn't even make any sense.
None of it makes any sense. So the basic description of the plot would be these four main characters are all track runners. in 1970s America. It's 1970s America for no apparent reason. It plays no reason in the story why it would need to be anything other than now. This is about, nothing happens for about 20 pages, and then they go into the woods and kill a tramp by accident, and then about 40 pages later they find the dead body of a child who's been sodomized by the headmaster, and then the headmaster proceeds to murder them, apart from one of them who manages to get out. That's the entire story of the book. There isn't enough plot in here to fill up a short story, never mind a full-length book which he expects people to pay £8 for. Do you know what annoys me most? It's not even Morrissey, because he's an arsehole, everyone knows that. It's Penguin,
yeah, it's Penguin
for choosing to publish this. This feels like a first draft, because there's no plot momentum, there's no character development, there's errors throughout, there's terrible prose, which just is insufferable. What he does constantly is use like alliteration, but constant alliteration. I'll see. I'm just going to look at the first page, and oh my! This book, what happened? I bought it and I was reading it on the bus home. I'd had a few drinks, and I thought at first that I was reading it wrong, because I couldn't believe something was making me feel so like confused and ill just reading it. And I gave it about half an hour, read like the first 5 pages again, and realised it was actually the style that he was going for. So I made quite a lot of notes throughout, because there's quite a lot to talk about.
Okay.
So basically the first like 10 pages are terrible. They're really bad, and like they just describe like this track meet that's going on, but there's nothing like horribly offensive, it's just poor. And then about 11 pages in you get to the dialogue, the first use of dialogue. Oh no, so page 13. This is the level of dialogue in the book. I have an old soul, begins Eliza. I'm a model of healthy humanity. Remember, this is the first dialogue that's happened between two lovers. There's no dialogue before, and this isn't like mid-conversation, this is the beginning. I have an old soul, begins Eliza. I'm a model of healthy humanity, chops Ezra. Friendship is a waste of time, lobs Eliza. I dream of a booze-infused orgy, shouts Ezra. I am a booze-infused orgy, is Eliza's reverse twist. I have erotic curiosities, topspins Ezra. I can take life as it is and leave it at that, backhands Eliza. I slow down to inspect traffic accident at the risk of causing over, lies Ezra. You mustn't keep asking yourself why you feel what you feel, is Eliza's drop shot. I am a flawless triumph. I am a flawed triumph. Flawed is spelled F-L-O-O-R-E-D.
Oh, it's not like that. How is that actually meant to be spelled?
What? Yeah, I take myself very seriously, is Ezra's sudden half-volley.
Oh, is all the dialogue written in italics?
All the dialogue's in italics, yes.
Okay.
And all the normal text is just
Why?
written as... just so you can differentiate it.
Isn't that what speech marks are for?
Yes. Yeah, the whole book is like this. It's just, if you start looking for problems... Grammatical issues.
Punctuation.
Well, this is why it feels like a first draft. Because it's so full of errors and like this is just one that I haven't made note of it. I picked it out of similar. This is like an example of the writing style of similar height. Should these things matter? They amused each other daily with dilly dally and do lally repertoire, the kind which neither would accept from others. Who describes sort of conversation as dilly dally and do lally repertoire?
God, it's awful.
It is, isn't it? But every page features prose that bad. But the main issues with the novel aren't even like anything with the writing style. They're the multiple digressions that he goes through. So do you remember, you've read autobiography, didn't you?
Yeah, bits of it.
Do you remember the bits?
I remember how he goes off on tangents and bitches about like celebrities and stuff like that.
If that was your favourite part, this would probably be your favourite book.
I also remember how he goes off on really boring tangents in the first half where he talks about like his grandma and stuff and...
Oh, no. What happens is, right, they kill this tramp after he gives a 2.5 page long monologue about the problems with the justice system and judges. Now, if you might remember from autobiography, Morrissey famously lost a battle with the courts over Smith's royalties because of the ruling of a judge. There is an actual 2.5 page, in fact there it is, there's like, look, there it is, where all this tramp discusses is the problems with the justice system and how judges can't judge normal people because they're in their ivory tower.
Good lord. There's even one part where he's put like in brackets, now his eyes become greedy, as he's describing.
Yeah.
I'd known a boy from over the back. I stand on tiptoe to watch him every day at 4 o'clock. Now his eyes become greedy. Not knowing why at first, I'd wait to the point of excited tears. The patience I gave, and I was 13 to his 16. You'd laugh or cry.
Yes.
I like how there's also, normally I laugh at these kind of things.
Yeah.
I laugh at these kind of things because they'll give like an author biography.
Yeah.
But Morrissey's beyond that.
Is it? It's nothing. I know.
Because it's Morrissey.
Yeah, well, you expect it to know who he is straight away. So those were the first things I noticed. The fact that, like, well, this is the problem, right? You can have stuff like, you know, a scathing critique of the justice system, as long as it isn't just the character
Saying that, yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. What also happens in this chapter is they've gone into the forest to talk about this, and he uses it as an excuse to talk about another one of his favourite themes, climate change.
Oh yeah.
But instead of feeling the need to display it through the dialogue or through you know, like metaphor, he just comes out and says human beings are sick and disgusting in the world and are polluting the world. And it's basically just a tangent where he even says the line, the classic line, human beings, what is it now? It's something along the lines of what use are human beings? But not through dialogue or through using a story to tell this point. He just says it.
Oh dear.
It is the worst kind of like sickeningly sort of, you know, like, look at you over there, you're wrong.
What other Morrissey pet peeves are there?
Is
there a vegetarian streak throughout the book?
Oh yeah.
Oh good.
Of course there is. That's his favourite. That's his favourite subject. In fact, hold on, I'll get to it.
Are there any goes at the monarchy?
Yes, I'll get to that one now. No, there's a hypocritical go at the monarchy.
Oh.
So this is how he gets his goes at Churchill.
Okay.
All right. So let's have a look. Thus, the US government tore boys from their mother's arms and posted them off to lands empty of experience, where the boys' heads could be split onto spikes. Meanwhile, whilst yelping for help, the British established elite remained cosy and calm in rolling estates behind Saxon gates. Churchill himself would experience World War II safely and in a suite of rooms at Claridge's most luxurious Mayfair hotel, with not a complicated twitch or pang to trouble his elaborate evening meal. Often just him and Ivor Novello, like dons in senior common rooms, loaded on cognac and crashing into each other, with doubled up laughter, cigar smoke being as close as they'd ever be to physical danger. Thankfully the poor will die for us, yet the historical honour will belong only to Churchill, whilst the names of the dead shall never be said.
What was the critical reception of this book?
It was dreadful.
Scathing, I hope.
Scathing. Yeah. I mean, there isn't a single positive review of this book from anyone other than Morrissey defenders on comment. Like, The Guardian read a review that was scathing, making these exact same points, and people went, at least he's written a book, what have you done? It's like, writing a book isn't an achievement, writing a good book is. Anyone can write a book.
Yeah.
Especially a 110-page book which features no narrative and long digressions on things. I mean, the stuff, it's just lazy. Everyone knows he has these opinions. He's just parroting them out again. This bit was, what's most funny about this is he makes a contrast to, do you know that film that came out with Benedict Cumberbatch about the guy who broke the codes?
Oh yeah, the Imitation Game.
Yeah, and he was a homosexual.
Yeah.
That guy. He makes it seem as if that guy was, you know, like, nobody knows who he is. He's been forgotten by the history books because he's homosexual.
Okay.
But he also makes it seem as if Churchill was a homosexual, and then he uses this to have a go at Churchill, almost to suggest that Churchill being a homosexual with this Novello man is bad, but the other guy, because he wasn't a royal and has been forgotten, being a homosexual is good.
Churchill.
What?
Churchill wasn't a royal.
What? Just he and Ivor Novello is what he says. What?
Oh, sorry, I thought you said a royal.
No, that he's trying to say they're part of the same class.
Sorry. I thought you were saying like a royal, as like Churchill, wasn't it?
No, he's trying to put them in the same class, I think.
Okay, got you. Yeah.
Basically, I think that he hates anyone. The whole book is very conflicted and confused.
Okay.
He seems to hate Churchill for being part of that whole royal sort of upper class. They'll send them in to die.
Yeah.
But the problem is that Churchill was a good leader during World War II, and people liked him. And
yeah.
He's not a guy with a bad reputation.
He's not like Tony Blair.
Yeah. It's not like, like, pick your targets, man.
Or David Cameron in the recent pig controversy.
Yeah. God. Well, let's have a look at what else.
We're getting real politics here now.
We're getting into real politics. So that was another note. Can you believe I made all these notes about this terrible prowess and all this rhyming stuff and this lack of characterisation? We're only 39 pages into the book. Oh, so this were a bit about his say on vegetarian. Again, only the tramp about with the monologue about how judges are evil was actually anything like contextualized in the text. The rest of it is just him saying his opinions. So, human flesh, when devoured, is said to differ not at all from the flesh of pigs. Owled was sniffed. This is the worst probably bit of prose in here. Owls would sniff the stiff and make off with foisted eyeballs as the fox family unglue and rip at this medley of meatball. In the Church of Secret Service known as the abattoir, this is exactly what humans excitedly do to beautiful bodies of animals who were also crafted in care by some divine creationist. Yet at the human hand, the animals are whacked and hacked into chopped meat, whilst gazing up at their protector with disbelief and pleading for mercy, not familiar to the human spirit, ground and round into hash or stew for the Big Mac pleasure of fat podged children.
Oh my god.
But this is what's confusing, right? So it continues to go, pleasure of fat podged children whose candidature for roly-poly vicious porkiness makes their pludgingly plump parents laugh loudly as little junior blubberguts orders yet another super burger with tub of guts determination to snuff death into round bellies, and such kids come to resemble their parents as £10 bags of shit in a £5 bag.
So Morrissey hates fat people.
Well, I was going to say, this is what's confusing. Does he equate meat eating with being overweight? And do people who are overweight who eat meat, are they worse in some way than people who eat meat to him? Because he constantly equates the two being together. Does he just hate fat people or just fat people who eat meat? I mean, he's not a thin man himself. So I think he's a bit of a...
He's a bit pudgy.
He's a bit of a... It's just ridiculous to, you can try and defend vegetarianism through the guise of just calling all meat eaters overweight. I mean, there are other ways to argue it, but why purposely draw the image of overweight people exclusively being
especially
meat eaters?
Children as well. That makes it even weirder.
Exactly. I don't understand. This novel is just... I can't understand why he wrote a novel other than to write a novel.
And why Penguin agreed. Well, no, we get why Penguin agreed to publish it.
Cash in it.
A bit of money in it, yeah.
Waterstones had, just hundreds of these in the Huddersfield branch. They had a whole table that had nothing but these on, and people were buying them up. He's that big a figure now that even the most self-indulgent crap that he releases will just be purchased by countless people.
Idiots,
yeah. I mean, to be honest, I read the reviews and I'm a big fan of when an artist does something in a public way that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like this is. And also I'm fascinated by Morrissey. He seems to have no self-awareness and he seems to be just a bizarre figure. I can't tell whether he's earnest about what he says and he's the world's biggest tool, or whether he's joking, or whether it's somewhere in between, or
like a big laugh.
I can't understand where he comes from at all. This book is... I can't even...
He's like the Carl Pilkington of the music universe.
Yes.
Is it all an actor, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't understand why he wrote this book. Well, I can sort of understand just to be an author. You know how he immortalises Oscar Wilde.
Yeah. He has some literary ambitions.
Yeah, I can understand that, but he must know this is terrible. I mean, he seems to have good taste in literature if he likes Oscar Wilde and things. He must know this is terrible. Why release it? Why release a debut novel only that big that he must know critics are going to savage? It's
He doesn't care because he's an artist.
It's just bizarre. And like, but what I find fascinating is like, well, you know, when most artists do a self-indulgent, terrible mess, they usually at least stick to what you know, like the art they're in. Like I'm thinking of something like Ark by Neil Young or the Monsanto Years, where he's at least using music to tell what he's doing, and you know, like at least it seems quite like earnest. He's not making massive enemies by doing it.
Yeah.
Why does Morrissey keep doing these things that everyone hates him for, and he just gets more and more, he loses more and more fans and seems more and more extreme and pushes himself in, it's quite interesting at least that he pushed himself to do something new. Yeah. However terrible that is, it's just bizarre, isn't it? Anyway, I'm not even halfway through my notes yet. It gets worse and or worse. Oh, we skip quite a lot now. To page 65, which is what happens in all, they kill this tramp, and that's never brought back up again, apart from bits like a couple of bits. Like 110 pages is nothing for a book that has so many digressions and truly bizarre moments. But they kill, I don't understand even like the plot he's trying to say. So they kill this tramp, and they feel bad about it for a while, and then it becomes a story about this dean who's molested and killed a child and buried him in the grounds. Like, there's no correlation between that. Why start with one thing and go to another? If it's 110 pages, you could have told one good story, you could have characterised them more. There's so much more he could have done. It just makes absolutely no sense. Hatred of deans and the school establishment.
Oh, yes.
Meet His Murder was had a lot of references to that, the album.
The headmaster ritual. Yeah.
And also he claimed that a dean abused him in autobiography. So he's again extrapolating things from his own life.
He hates the school system.
He hates the school system. He hates the education system. He hates the police force. Yes. He hates judges. He hates America. The one new thing you'll glean out of this is that Morrissey's he's got a bit of an obsession with dying. It appears recently. A lot of pages are sort of like terrible.
Well, you probably get that from Smith, so they're quite.
Yeah, but these are ruminations on aging and dying. Right, so okay. He's not an old man. He's in his late 50s.
In the Smiths, it was about like romantic deaths, wasn't it? Yeah.
This is sort of the decay of the body and that kind of death.
Like the decay of his body.
Yes, like, and what's interesting is apparently he had a cancer scare recently.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Yeah, so I imagine that and all fed into the book. The book, to be fair, it is probably the worst thing I've ever read. It's absolutely terrible. There isn't a single page which doesn't feature any. But it's fascinating now. You know how a great book, every page will have a new thing in it, which will have like a great description or like a great character moment, something to drive. Every page in this has a new terrible moment, or like, and in a new way.
Oh, that's kind of fun, right?
It is very. I wouldn't recommend buying it because I don't want to see Penguin rewarded for their horrible act of selling out.
Well, they're a publishing company, and of course we're gonna sell out.
I know, but like, I reckon some publishing companies would have said to him, "You're not releasing it on the classic label. That's for Joseph Conrad and Mary Shelley,
Charles Dickens."
Charles Dickens, yeah. It's not. That's not for you, Morrissey. No matter how much he would have protested and done it. I mean, it's just bizarre. Everything about this is just truly bizarre. Like, the bits with the child molestation are the most offensive reckoning of like that kind of theme you could imagine. It's like there's no kind of focus on the actual like damage it's done to the character. It's too brief because obviously the book is too brief. It's only established 50 pages towards the end. It's mainly used like to show things about the four characters rather than to ruminate on that kind. It's just a horrible plot twist that becomes completely offensive as it goes on. I can't believe that you would write a book with so much with a plot twist so shocking.
He even has a pretentious author photograph on the back as well, where he's like, look, also hypocritically, he hates America, but he's wearing an American football t-shirt.
Yeah.
Is that be ironic?
Maybe it's to draw you in, but